Hey, Arcturus here. Today, we're looking at a LEGO Star Wars set from the Master Builder series, the Mos Eisley Cantina. This is set 75290. It comes with 3,187 pieces and is rated 18+. It's a fairly large set with a pretty big table footprint, though it's not very tall. But as you can see here, we have the completed set. It's got a nice cantina entrance here with sliding doors. Now in this set, the doors do go up instead of to the side. This is a space conserving thing, which I think is perfectly all right for a LEGO set. As you can see, there's a few extra pieces on it than just the cantina. You have two moisture collectors, one larger, one smaller. You have a watering hole for some lizard creature, as you can see here. And you have a few minifigures as well. Additionally, you get a few extras. You get two different ships, such as Greedo's ship, which is here, where I have placed Greedo inside. You get a V-35 speeder, piloted by a Trandoshan. A nice speeder here. Now, the lid just does come off. It doesn't have the hinges, or the cockpit just comes off. It doesn't have hinges. But here it is, a nice little addition to the set. You also get two additional outbuildings, which I will quickly detach before they fall apart. So you get a small home with removable tops. And you also get a shop on Tatooine with a similar type dome as the main cantina. And we'll take a closer look at those in a few moments. But let's start off first with the main focus of the set, and that is the cantina itself. So I'll just rotate this so we can take a look all the way around. You see you've got hitching posts for various creatures. You've got points where you can attach any of those two other buildings, or both of those two other buildings. You've got some external storage here for the cantina itself. Here on the back, next to a moisture collector, you've got a secondary entrance to the cantina, a back room. Again, the door opens upward. Some printed piece here for the door panel. And we'll continue rotating. Here we see the back hinges for the main building and that secondary moisture collector. And then we're back to the watering hole. Here we have the green beast. Its mouth is hinged so that it can either be opened or closed. Though there is no real in between. It does kind of click into position there. I don't know if you can hear it through the microphone there. It does have a saddle piece that attaches. The reins just attach to these pins here. Or you can attach a green backing piece to round off the top, much like many of their horses have as well. And that just comes out, although in my case it seems to be coming out in pieces, so I will reattach the saddle later. Here, I'll pull off our stormtrooper there. You have a nice little watering hole and some feed for any beasts outside the cantina. We have one of our moisture collectors, the smaller of the two. Just a nice pinned piece here. It does look like it can rotate, but it is in fact fixed. It's all through those hex pieces. I think they're hex pieces or crosshair pieces, kind of like this, where everything is fixed in place. But it does give the impression that it could be moving, which I think is a nice, clever thing to have done with the LEGO. You notice there are these, there are these clips here and pinholes here for attaching things to the outside, so you can reconfigure it however you wish, whereas this one attaches by a little hook and clip piece. This is a larger moisture collector, but again, like the other one, it makes use of those angled pieces to give the impression that it could be moving, especially with these white flags here on the top, that it would just be rotating, collecting moisture. Just as we go through, I'll pull out some of the minifigures and we'll take a look at those at the end. But before we continue, don't forget to like and subscribe. So the doors do catch on a piece, so you can't pull them all the way out. There are a few sticker pieces in the set. There's several sticker pieces in the set. Some of them make sense, like this door sign kind of makes sense, and this one here on the door makes sense because this piece is actually one of those large 2x4 plates. So it makes sense that it has some sticking there. Another thing is this part that goes on the top that kind of gives it a more covered look is actually detachable. I do think it's nice that they left the center open. Really saves on some of the piece count. And I'm just knocking some parts off here. So it hinges in 3 parts, so you can have it open so you can see into both sides of the cantina and the bar at the same time. Just gonna remove that minifigure and this minifigure. So here in the back, I've got Han and Chewie talking to Dr. Evazan. And then I have the Bith musicians there in the back playing their music. And then we also have some more conversations going on here on the sides. You can set it up however you like. So we'll just go right to left because this side is actually closer to my hands. So we have 3 of these Jizz Whaler musicians, because that is the formal title for what they play, although I think it's more akin to jazz than anything. And they have their own built little musical parts, and we'll take a closer look at those when we look at the minifigures. So you have a nice little stage here, a window in the back, and if you need extra room to get in there, you can actually take off the roof to that section, and the domed lids move up, and that's true for all 3 of the sections on both sides. But it does help if you don't knock pieces of it off. I'm coming at it from an odd, there we go. And even the funny shaped rooms have tiled off tops that just attach or detach very easily. Now the whole set isn't detachable from itself, so there's no way to kind of separate out portions of the build. It's all built together to these center pieces here. So it will be a little difficult to show some of this. And one additional thing on this side is you can actually open up the side wall here and get an even easier access point into this room. It just clips onto those pieces there. So it is a very accessible set if you were going to use it as a playset. And that also gives the room a nice angled wall. So throughout the build, you have these little torches or lights there on the walls, and then you have additional ones inside the rooms, which I will try to show you. There's no good way to do it. There in the back, that's just a lightsaber piece and like a clear bottom piece. A little clear disc, very similar to these, but in a darker gray. And then you have a couple different tables where people can sit and aim at each other for deals gone wrong or right, depending on what you're looking for. And there's, of course, collections of glasses throughout the build there. In the back, you have a nice storage room. This should hopefully make it a little... That does not help at all. All right, so let's try it this way. Nope, that will not help. And there is a pin that kind of locks the set together as one piece, so you can pick up the whole thing without it falling apart, although this might break part of it. So here in the back, we actually have like a cleaning supply closet, and this was added for the Lego set. It was not actually anything from the movie, but it was a nice addition for the Lego set to kind of give a little extra there to the back of the build. Now let me try not ripping this thing apart. So right next to that, we have the bar with all sorts of various concoctions for making drinks that can either, have some adjustability, some nice colored pieces to kind of show those space drinks that you can get and all that. And it's nicely separated from the rest of the tan of the build with this white brick here and this silver bar to kind of keep people away from directly in contact with it. So on the other side, you have some very similar sections as the previous side. In this case, no stage, just an extra seating area with a table with a light on top of it. I'm just going to slide these minifigures out of here. It's fairly easy to get in and out of too, and it does help that you can remove the tops just like the last time. So I'll just slide these off, and this one should come. There we go. To get a little more light in there. I'll try to adjust it. So you have more bench seats here in the back. Some supplies here in the corner. And then just 2 tables with various things. And then, of course, another set of tables closer to the bar as well. Again, another door that goes up and does not come all the way out. You have some alcoves created here that are hidden when the piece connects, but you have this interesting side piece there. There are a few smaller pieces on the set that do come off relatively easily as you move around it. Like some of these detach pretty easily. You do have a nice... You do have a nice light in here, a chandelier style that kind of hangs over the entryway. And again, that door. I'm going to close this up for now. And we're going to look at some of the other items that you build in the set. Oh, and this top piece just sets right on top there. So here we have the small Tatooine home that you can build. You have like a refrigerating unit here on top. And another one here on this section. You have some extra pieces there on the interior. I'll dump them out so we can take a closer look. You get some sort of crystal, probably because it's Star Wars, a Kyber crystal. You get a cool crowbar piece, which I actually have not seen before. And you get some sort of saw blade style thing. Then you, of course, get some extra details, some stuff for cooking, a shovel, and that's pretty much it. Actually, a little workspace in there. That's pretty much it for this one. You do have a water pump here, or some sort of water drawing device, I imagine. There, this piece is a sticker. Unfortunately, it's not a printed piece. That's pretty much the home. It's a small addition to the build, but it does help if you want to set up like a diorama, or just have a little more to the cantina than just the cantina. So here we have the shops. You have the externals here, some external wiring and stuff, and again another door for access, and then the front of the stall with a kind of cape-like piece to cover as an awning, and of course a dome for the top. Interior, you get a nice blaster there, and then just a small stall where you could have a minifigure placed, or just have it placed around the town where maybe it's closed up. A small addition to that, just getting the cantina. For the last bit, before we get to the minifigures, we have the 2 ships. So Greedo's ship is small, pretty symmetrical kind of ship. Has, of course, the ability to put Greedo in it. I'll just pull him out. A nice, pretty standard computer piece there. Pretty small, just Greedo. Lots of stickers on this piece. This actually, I think, composes the majority of the stickers on the sheet that you get. Where you have 4 of the same and 8 of the stripe pieces. These, I think, would have made sense to have printed because there's so many in this set, but I suspect they probably can't reuse them, so they decided not to print them. Other than that, it's kind of a small orb-like ship. Actually, speaking of stickers, there is one I wanted to point out, which I believe is... Oh, it's inside here, isn't it? One sticker I wanted to point out, though I really do wish this one had been a printed piece. I think it'd be cool. It's a wanted poster for R2-D2 and C-3PO. And I just think that's a really cool addition to the set. Just a really nice sticker in general. Of course, it is a pain to get to as it's posted in this cleaning supply room. But it is a very nice sticker, I think. And the last ship we have is the land speeder. This does have a few stickers on it as well. I think a total of well, it says 8 as well. 2 for the computer pieces, and then of course these stripe pieces, and these stripes. But that's Lego Star Wars. It's a very simple speeder. I think it's a little too simple to be a set on its own. Maybe it and Greedo's ship could have possibly at some point been something that they looked at doing as a set, and then decided now it's too small to put in. But I think it's actually a very nice speeder. It's large enough to put a minifigure down here. You could put a minifigure up here. So you could put 2 on this. You could put 1. It's up to you. But it's just a very solid land speeder. Not much else to say on it than that, other than, lots of yellow on it. Some from bricks, like this stripe here is all bricks. But then these other yellow pieces are stickers. And I think the back is pretty cleverly done, just with these black tiles to kind of show where the engines would be. But obviously it's not going so fast. It's going to be spurting flames in the middle of a town, even one as wild as Tatooine. And then you have these fins on the back. Just a very solid, small land speeder. Nice addition to the set. Kind of adds some extra things to instead of just having the cantina. So now we'll look at the minifigures. So we'll start off with the Trandoshan, because I already have him out and front and center. And I will adjust this so that he's in focus. That might be helpful. So a pretty simple minifigure, just standard legs and a vest kind of thing here, but a very nice molded head for this Trandoshan, whose name is Hrachek Calvas. Fas? I'm not entirely sure that's pronounced right, but a very nicely molded piece for this Star Wars figure. I'm pretty pleased with that. I think it's pretty cool. Up next, we have Garandan, who gets a cape, all gray kind of look. Just a simple chest piece there, but he gets this nicely molded piece that just attaches, kind of like one of the beard pieces would, to the face there. The head here is just silver. And then the back of the minifigure is just standard shirt, but goes very nicely with the cape and the hood. Without the hood, I think it looks a little strange, but with the hood, it really does look like it's all kind of one piece, very nicely designed. And the cape just really helps that hood blend in. I did build it forgot to put the cape on when I first built him, and he looked very strange without it. So up next, we have a Jawa who gets a old style blaster. I remember building these as a kid. But just a simple Jawa. Uses the short legs, of course. Does he actually use the short? Yeah, just tight. A nice torso piece with the bandoliers and pouches, and then the eyes are just yellow on that, and it's got some printed straps there on the back as well. That should be helpful. And then he gets his own hood to give that distinctive Jawa look. So up next, we have Moma Nadon, who has this really cool headpiece. I forget what species of alien he's supposed to be. The instruction manual does tell you when you build him what he's supposed to be. I just don't recall. But he has this very nice minifigure here where the torso and legs are actually very well connected. Sometimes you get kind of a break between the two, but you actually have some parts like a tassel here and a pouch that's actually kind of across both the belt and the torso and the leg, which is really interesting. And it has some footprinting there to kind of give him the alien feet. It's a very detailed minifigure. And then there on the back as well. And he also gets one of those uniquely molded headpieces, which I think is really cool. I do like that about a lot of the Star Wars figures, is you do get some really cool pieces in it. Now this next one I think could have used a molded headpiece. It's just a kind of hairpiece style. Only one face, but it's one of those pig-nosed bat creatures. I don't know what they're called, but this one's named as Kabe. And he uses the shorter legs and has a vest with some very nice detailing. I don't know if you can see it there with the lighting I've got here, but it actually has pouches and stuff outlined on it in yellow. You can kind of make it out here, but not entirely. The light's just not good enough. trying to fix that. Don't do that. Okay. Up next, we have Labria, who has this kind of horned ear headpiece, and that's just a headpiece like this. Looks kind of evil or nefarious, has some dark legs, has a belted and scarf-like look there, and he has that also printed around the back, but he comes with a cape. He also comes with a more deadpan expression, unlike several of the other ones we've looked at with their molded headpieces. And then he comes with this kind of grinning look as well. This molded piece seemed to not want to go on quite as well as the others, but it does go on. It just seemed a little more stiff than some of the other ones. So up next we have Dr. Evazan. Oops, I took off his hair a little too early. Dr. Evazan with his hairpiece and his open shirt there, where you can see some chest hair, although I don't know if it comes through on the camera. And he has two faces as well, one a little more surprised and one more smirking. And it's just a pretty simple human minifigure. So after Dr. Evazan, we have Panda Baba, which is one of these spider-headed alien creatures. At least I always think of them as spider-headed, with a bright orange torso. Has a jacket, and you can see there's a shirt and belt underneath there, but also this molded kind of tarantula-like head, though it doesn't have quite as many eyes. Just a very nice alien minifigure to join several of the others. And of course, we have Greedo as well, who also gets one of those molded headpieces. And some leg printing there with some belts and his kind of... And then he has got his vest or jacket there with its pouches and stuff. Just a nice, solid minifigure for reenacting that iconic scene from the cantina. We also have Wooher, who has some graying hair on the temples, the dual-sided face printing, and then just a simple open shirt. Then we have our musicians, who I will show all three. Let me see if I can't get them all up at once. Then we have our musicians here, our Bith musicians, each with their molded headpiece. They are identical except for the instruments they play. As you can see, they're kind of all assembled differently. They actually go together pretty well and look like instruments, in an alien setting. So I think that's pretty cool. And you get 3 of those to make up the band in the cantina. Then we have 2 sand troopers, 1 squad leader and 1 standard trooper. Their armor has this kind of like sanded appearance to it with some yellow there. They have binoculars, guns, and then sand packs to survive in the desert, with like water and survival gear and stuff, and their shoulder capes there, and then their blasters. And they do have heads, but they're just basic heads. I think the helmets for these stormtroopers are really well done, and especially with the cape, there's no gap or anything at all, so they go together really nicely. Pretty detailed troopers there, but also pretty standard, kind of, except for the sand additions there. So we also have Chewbacca. This is a pretty standard Chewbacca piece. One I've seen before, and I'm fairly sure is pretty common. The bandolier he's supposed to have does have some silver on it, which you can kind of see from the shininess, but in person it's much more brown. The silver did not come through quite as well on this figure, but he does have some leg printing for the fur differences there, but it's a pretty standard Chewbacca. It would be cool if he had a molded torso, so you got kind of more hairy arms. It's more like Chewbacca actually had than the minifigure arms, to kind of differentiate that a little more, but I think it's perfectly fine and suitable as a Chewbacca. Here we have Han Solo. So he's got his iconic look there, the pants, the vest, the bandoliers, and the hair. And he's got the dual-sided face printing as well. More serious and then more smirking. So up next, we have our 2 droids that are being hunted for. We have our R2-D2. pretty disappointing that there's no printing here on the back of his torso, or can. I'm not really sure the proper word for what he's got. But you do get the round, all-around head printing there. But I do think it's a little disappointing that for a set of this size and cost, you don't get the back printing on him. But you also get a C-3PO with a nicely molded head and some very detailed torso there. You've got the exposed wiring, some bolts kind of holding his chest together a little bit, and then his legs with that little silver piece there as well. And of course the exposed wiring. And of course the exposed wiring there on the back as well. Very nice C-3PO figure, I think. And it would not be the Mos Eisley Cantina without Obi-Wan Kenobi, who I have here, and Luke Skywalker, who we'll see next. Just a nice, simple Obi-Wan. Just his desert robes, tan pants, and hood and cape. Nice and simple. A nice face piece, some scars there, and some hair, and only single-sided face printing there, but some back printing on the torso underneath that cape, in case you decided to have him without the cape. But it does look better with the hood if you have the cape. And then, of course, we have Luke Skywalker. Some leg printing there on the legs and his torso. And then again there on the back. And, of course, two-sided face printing on him. Just a nice, solid Luke Skywalker. It does, of course, come with lightsabers, additional blaster pistols, and Chewbacca's bowcaster, and this very large tome for all 18 bags in this set, and the 3,000 plus pieces. Some places have some lore on the various characters. So you have this Devronian, who is that kind of... You have our Devronian, and some background information on him, and that's true for a lot of the characters who might not be as familiar to you from the movies. So thoughts overall on this set was it was a fun build. It's pretty large. It's larger footprint than I was expecting, but it's not as tall as some of the larger sets are. I was not expecting the outbuildings at all, although they are on the box. I just did not expect them to be there for some reason. I just did not expect those to be there. I do like the moisture collectors. Those are a cool touch. They look really good. I'm really surprised at how nice they look on the table. The speeder's really cool. The Cantina's great. For such a large set, I have a hard time recommending this set. One, because it's quite large, and it's also pretty expensive at $400 US. It is still available as of filming, and I believe it will be as of posting this video. So if you do want it, it's still out there at standard retail price. It's just, for such a large set, it's pretty expensive, and it's hard to recommend for that. I think it would be a great playset, but again, at the price, it's hard to recommend. It does use, like a lot of the Star Wars sets, it does use a lot more stickers than I'd care for, but I don't think there's any getting away from that, as I suspect they probably can't reuse them in other sets outside of Lego Star Wars. But, I mean, overall, it's a Lego build. It will be a fun build. It's a lot of it with 3,000 pieces. I knew there would be a lot of it, but I hadn't realized just how much it would take to actually get it built. That was surprising. I also learned that these larger sets are probably not for me, not because they're not fun, but just physical limitations for where I am right now. Maybe in the future, that'll be more the case. There's definitely some larger sets I want to build, and I want to, pick up, like the Dungeons and Dragons set, the 2 Lord of the Rings sets, which I do have. I just haven't built them yet because they are quite large. I'll probably be doing smaller sets going forward. But overall, I mean, it's a great set. If you really want it, and then by all means, I can't really recommend it at its current price. Maybe if it was discounted pretty heavily, that might be worthwhile then. That might be pretty good then. Well, that's all I have for today. I will catch you next week with another video.